Real Talks with the Tablemonkeys. This is episode 2, and today we have the legend Devon Larratt on the call with us.
Yeah.
The man has many nicknames, No Limits being the famous one, but
now, Desperation Pinocchio.
Yeah,
that's a great one. I really like that one a lot. Yeah.
Actually, apparently he lives in Ontario.
Yeah, did you hear that? Matthias has sourced who this person is. He knows who he is and says he lives in Ontario. We're not going to go further than that. But
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's why he's always throwing the little Canadian flag up there, I guess.
I'll tell you, nothing gets by Matthias. Nothing.
Yeah, he is awesome. He is awesome.
He's super awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that studio setup he has is next level. It's taking the arm wrestling podcast to a new field. Huh?
Yeah,
man. Yeah. So, how are you doing? How are you guys doing?
Good. Yeah. So the surgery went well. Everything is healing up good. The pumpkin training is going good. My right arm feels already, like you said, already stronger. Like the connection's already better, and having to figure out how to use it, as my main hand, because I was left hand dominant. So eating, brushing my teeth, all that stuff. So it's going good. But I guess that was kind of the first topic we wanted to talk about, was pumpkin training and just how that's been going, and not only just for the right, but the resting for the left, and then kind of going down the whole training kinesiology thing, because that's kind of what we love to talk about. So just picking your brain on that, and then
it's so wild. It's so interesting to me, this training. There's so many. It's so hard to ever have any idea that you come up with actually work, right? I have these ideas and theories about training, about how things are going to go, and unfortunately, very rarely does it ever work the way I think it is going to work. Yeah. This has been such a trip for me because it's been quite long. So it's been since Wagner. So that's oh my God, it's a good year and a half now.
Yeah.
So this is not a short experiment. This has been going on. Yeah. It's so wild to me because I have not taken a rest. So it's been a year and a half. And in that time period, I've never let myself peak.
Can I ask what do you consider a rest? How long would a break or a rest be to deload and peak? Because I know now you're taking a whole 6 weeks. Is that longer than you normally ever have?
Yeah, that's on the longer end. I have done this amount of time before, but typically the way it kind of works is the longer you train, the longer your taper. So I remember back when the WL was doing one kind of big event a year, I did basically a 6-week deload, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was great. And
so can you talk about what you mean by deload? Are you still arm wrestling but with significantly lower volume, or do you switch completely just to gym time and peaking your strength in the gym?
I've really, it's never really been completely concrete for me. Years ago, when I started to do tapers and deloads, the first thing that I thought was the thing that takes the longest to bounce back is ligaments and tendons, which I thought was mostly affected by poor position in table time.
For sure, yeah.
That's
what we think too. So how are we wrong?
I think that's the conclusion that most arm wrestlers come to, that the hardest thing on your tendons and ligaments is table time, especially when it's kind of higher intensity.
For sure.
If you're arm wrestling with people you got no problems with, it's generally not that bad.
Yeah. So would you say when you're being opened up?
Yeah.
That's when you're with people that are strong enough to actually open you up in a not great position.
Yeah. Anytime that you're giving something and you didn't want to give it, in any way, if you have to turn over, if you have anything that wasn't you giving it away, yeah, that can, I think, put a strain on your connections. And I always, and it changes as you get older. But I remember when I was young and I first started doing it, I was like, 3.5, 4.5 weeks. And now it's longer. Now I feel like it's like, 6 or 7 weeks to get that inflammation out of those regions. And I think that that's about right. Like, like most arm wrestlers are carrying kind of that residual inflammation in their wrist, sure, their elbow, their shoulder. Oh my God. Right. And yeah, it's always
100%. Yeah, no, 100%. I know I wasn't like at all rested 100% for that. And I was giving her and it was just being over torqued. It was also the position I was in. That's, if something's going to go, that's what's going to go. But yeah, it was just being over torqued, on that thing. So
I'm sorry, Jason.
No, I don't mean it like that. I mean exactly what you said. You feel like you're fresh. You feel like you're somewhat rested, but in reality, you're probably not. 6 weeks is way longer than I would have ever assumed to give myself to rest. But that makes sense.
So that's so that's 6 or 7 weeks from your last intense pull. And are you still gonna do light arm wrestling training up until maybe 2 or 3 weeks out?
Yeah. Now the thing is it changes as you get older too. I have so many miles. I got so much just residual arthritis and scar tissue. So you always have to be flexible when you're planning your stuff, right? Like you have to think about what do you need. I realized whatever. I mean, my best guess at this point for me to have my best day is it's really about being healthy. I think that that's the most important thing when you show up to an arm wrestling match. Like whether you did like an extra 5 pounds on any one of your movements, I don't think is going to affect you anywhere near as much as if you feel no pain in your elbow. If you can feel no pain in your elbow and in your wrist, and you have that confidence of freedom of movement and the ability to move and transition quickly without any impingement, that's really been my goal, right? So it was around the 7-week point when I was like, okay, done. I'm done with this level of intensity. I'm done with trying to take steps forward.
Yeah.
And ever since then, like I still am like greasing it a little bit, but everything, my priority for rest is everything.
Yeah.
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 Like rest, eat, get my workouts, but they're nothing spectacular, believe me.
That makes sense. So when you say now 1.5 years you've been pumpkin training with no rest, you mean so you haven't taken more than a couple days of like just recovery work? Like you've either been lifting heavy or training heavy on the table, basically?
I train way too much all the time just because I'm an addict, right? Yeah. Like I'm a total junkie, and I feel like it's what I do. Like I get up and I smash my body.
Yeah.
But
that was one of the most appealing things about arm wrestling was I was like, you train all the time? This is amazing.
Right. Yeah. But when it actually really matters, like the May the 28th really matters to me. So I have to cut back on my junkie tendencies.
Yeah.
And I have to actually give myself the rest that I know I need. So yeah, this is the first time in 1.5 years. So I'm so curious.
Yeah.
To see what happens.
Yeah.
Because it is bigger. My right arm is bigger.
Yeah.
It is
your hand, everything. Yeah.
Have you tested any lifts in the gym to see if you're technically stronger?
Yeah, you said the other day, I think you hadn't. I don't remember where I heard you say it, but you said you hadn't tested it. You weren't planning to.
That's the thing, because like I was training, just that the whole timing of the whole thing, it just didn't really lend itself to that phase. Because so you got to go way back. So I was like redlining like last year around this time, because I'm getting ready for Michael, and it's like it's been a strength phase, and I'm hitting my PRs, everything. And then that got
That's
shut
when you
down.
were posting stuff, right? You were posting like multi-spinner at 154 and stuff like that, right?
I was the strongest I'd been. Like,
you were still doing your 10s and 3s kind of like.
10s and 3s, that's right. 10s and 3s. And then that all fell apart, right? Like, and basically, so we moved. Well, I mean,
I'm joking. It was COVID. I'm just joking. I'm going.
God damn it. What happened? Seriously, right? Oh my God.
Yeah. But no, in that time, I know you ended up getting sick and then had to taper back, right?
Well, that's it. I mean, even before that, I was in this kind of like a place where I was just kind of just being a nomad and just enjoying arm wrestling. I wasn't peaking. I was just going around having fun. I was arm wrestling a lot, but I wasn't like peaking for any event. I was just kind of just rolling.
Yeah.
And then I got sick, and then it was while I was sick, I got the call. So I never really had the opportunity to kind of move into like a real, it's like I was just rebuilding. It's like I was just, so I'm really curious. I think I'm really strong.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think I am.
You feel strong. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I am, but yeah.
Through this last like bit where you were just arm wrestling so much, you weren't doing any heavy lifting, like you were just as much tabletop.
No, that's the thing. I didn't like, when I thought, what do I have to do to win this match? I have this much time. I'm like, okay, I think I spend as much time as I can on the table, and I do rehab in between. And that's what I did. I mean, from like, I don't know when it was, February. So February, March, April. So basically there was 3 months when, well, actually, no, that's more like 2 months. But when I was, so 2.5 months or whatever.
Yeah.
I was arm wrestling probably 3 times a week on average, 3, 4, basically every other day I was arm wrestling. And the sessions were good, like good training. Yeah. And then just rehab. Right. So rehab and arm wrestling. And then I kind of hit my peak, and now I'm just great. Yeah. Yeah.
So you're obviously hyper specialized right now, but you haven't always been super specialized. You did a lot of general strength training early on in your career.
Yeah.
If you had to go back, would you have specialized earlier on, or do you think that general training was really valuable for you?
It's hard to say. You know, these are all theories, but yeah. I think if you want to be a great arm wrestler, you specialize. That's what I think. I mean, it's great to have a base, and I think when you enter the sport, to have a base is an advantage. I think that the guys who come from other fields and they've already got a big investment, I think there's an ability to translate all that. But I do think if you just want to be the best at something, I think you invest in that one thing as much as humanly possible. Yeah. And that's where I got to with the pumpkin training. But again, what do I know? I don't know anything. And that's the thing that's the thing I keep proving to myself over and over. Every time I have an idea, I find out that I'm actually wrong in some way.
Well, I mean, the idea of adaptation and everything, there are a lot of people that have tried to figure this out and think it might make sense as well, right?
So it makes sense if you're putting, if you're only training your forearm, you're eating, all the nutrients are going to go to where they need to heal and grow. So
yeah, makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
it does. It really does make a lot of sense. But I cannot disregard what's happened to my left hand.
Yeah,
I can't.
That would be the next thing is, the rest. How is that?
And that's the thing that I really am starting to wrap my mind around, that I think that me, certainly myself, I do way too much.
Yeah.
I do way too much. I think that, the 3 to 4 times I was arm wrestling a week, and nothing else made my left hand really, really vicious. Like, I felt like with my left right now, I mean, now it's just, I mean, I'm not doing anything at all, like, because I've stopped arm wrestling. So I don't know if it's going to continue at this point, but that
would be a trick. Yeah. Theoretically, it should start to fade off a bit now.
It should now, but just the table sessions and nothing else did really. I really felt like that day that I was in Toronto with you guys.
Yeah.
I think it's the strongest my left hand has ever been in my life. I really believe that. Yeah. I think that it's stronger than when I arm wrestled Pushkar. I think it's, well, obviously it's a million times stronger than when I arm wrestled Dennis, but
even stronger than when you arm wrestled Wagner.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
That's the thing. It's so weird because
So that's a quick question. Going into a match like Wagner, were you kind of pumping your left a little bit? Like, would you, like, when you know you have that match coming up, you're not really focusing on your right as much?
That has been my typical protocol, probably since 2018. I mean, it's been much more normal for me because WAL was basically a right-handed season, so I was really focusing on the right. And then with the match with Wagner, I switched to the left. But it's tough, man. I really don't know. I think that there is some cross stuff that goes on now. I didn't really believe it so much before, but
people say by cross stuff, you mean where people say, like, if you train one side, the other side will still get stronger? Like, there's some theories behind that, right? Where, like, the neurological connection still, like, tries to keep up the symmetry a bit.
So confusing.
And I don't even know that it's even right-left. Like, I'm starting to think that if you just blast, like, something, like, if you keep some part of your body active, it might transfer to your whole body in some way.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what I mean by, like, physio. I think we kind of argue that point, that as long as you're moving something, it's creating some sort of blood flow. But yeah, that's interesting.
Okay, so coming at arm wrestling as a newer arm wrestler, you tend to kind of figure out one move, and you
find your strength.
Pretty quickly, what you're good at, whether it's top rolling or hooking. Is it important as a newer arm wrestler to still try and diversify your capabilities on the table, or should you just get really good at one thing and then move on, or just get good at one thing and keep it that way?
Yeah, like some people say, forget about your weaknesses, just train your strengths and just get really good at that. Or would you say you're more of the theory of, like, if you're weak at something, you want to get better at it so that you become more balanced?
Well, I think that the answer is going to be a little bit different for every athlete. I think that some people really have that one gift. They really do. And then other people have the gift of being more adaptable. And it depends on what type of an athlete you are. And I think that the way to figure that out is to arm wrestle a lot of people. Because obviously, if you arm wrestle in your club, in different clubs, in different regions, you're going to be exposed to probably all the styles of arm wrestling. And, if you're one of those guys whose one move works against everybody, well, that's great. But probably you're going to find that a slight little tweak here or there works a whole lot better against that guy or that, and that's going to, and that just your ability to react to the person in front of you. I think that's going to give you your answer on, just arm wrestling in many ways. I think just the best way possible.
Would you say, like, someone like Travis, even though he has his silver bullet, he still adjusts depending on who he's pulling, or he always I know he's always doing more or less the same move, but does he try to go about doing it, you feel, differently depending on whether he's pulling you or Dave Chafee?
Travis is a really great example of a specialist because he really does have a flow where he sets his grip very specifically, and then once he has his grip he will attack generally 99.9% of the time in the same pattern, because it works. It's crisp. It's a great move. There's no problems with it. But yeah, I think that, I mean, not everybody is Travis.
Yeah. I guess my question is more, does he still, even though he's exactly that?
Yeah, does he still adjust?
Does he still adjust? Like what you said, a little tweak here, a little tweak there to make sure that he knows, like if he's pulling different pullers to pull a little bit differently, or he really is just, he squeezes down and goes to his lane and that's it.
Well, I think Travis is a very smart arm wrestler, and I think, when you look at his career, there's many things that he does to ensure victory against, a wide variety of opponents, but he knows some things that really, really matter to him. And he will be very particular about fighting for those things. It's very, very rare. The biggest division, like when you talk about like technical arm wrestling, like for me, the biggest divide is the shoulder going back or is the shoulder coming forward.
Yeah.
When you watch Travis arm wrestle, I mean, I can think of very few times when I see his shoulder come forward.
Yeah,
almost never. And that means basically, like, you can say that he's top rolling, or sweeping, or some kind of move where he's going through your hand as an opener, and he's smart enough and balanced enough to do a little bit more with his wrist or a little bit more with his pronation or sweep inside a little bit more to make the top roll the most efficient it can possibly. Yeah, of course he is. I mean, he's not a robot. Like, I mean, he's a high level martial arm wrestler, right? So, but yeah, he's running through a sequence where he's setting up his outside game very much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the opposite of Jerry, but almost the exact same. Like where Jerry knows exactly what he wants, and he's basically going for one thing, or one of two things, either over your hand or under your hand, basically.
Yeah, like how often do you see Jerry move his shoulder back?
I don't think I've ever, maybe in an after pulling video, from like
from like the 90s.
Thousands.
Yeah. I saw him win a world championships with a top roll.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, gold medal, I think it was. I think it was against the Brazilian guy. Somewhere on YouTube, I'm watching. I'm like, oh my God, Jerry just won a gold medal with a top roll. It's like 1987 or something. Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the King's move a little bit, and obviously don't give away any of your game plan if you don't want to. But it seems to me like everyone thinks there's only one blueprint on how to beat the King's move. The kickback incline, gain hand control, transition to a press, and win. Do you think there are many different ways to beat the King's move that maybe haven't been explored yet? Ryan Bowen did a video, or did you?
Well, yeah. Here.
Sorry, Dev, you just froze for a bit.
Yeah.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, you're there now.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that when you look at the King's move, so right away we're in the strap, and what the King's move is really doing, it tries